The following is a production of ProDubShuns.com.
Rock and roll live.
Hello and welcome to Walk and Roll Live. I'm Doug Vincent along with Eric Aguilar. I am a polio survivor, crutch user for years, and transitioned into a wheelchair user over the last 20 years or so. Hello, Eric.
Hey guys, how you doing? My name is Eric Aguilar. I have cerebral palsy. I'm hard of hearing in my left ear, and I'm a walking stick user. What's going on with you, Doug?
You know, same old, same old. How was your week?
Oh, stupendous.
Stupendous.
Yeah, boy.
What made it stupendous?
My project for the Self-Advocacy Leadership Academy is all done. It's on emergency preparedness and advocacy from a systematic approach. I'm almost done with the NICOSTAR 3 award application for the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary. I am the Patilla Staff Officer for the Diversity Department this year.
Awesome. Feels good to get projects done, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got the accomplishment, then you got it off your checklist.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of anything big happened this last week.
You told me before we went on the air you signed to be a part of the American Legion of some sort. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. I've been going to the American Legion for years with the Old Farts Racing Team. It's the name for the car club, and they. I came in, I don't know, probably at least 10 years ago, but they've been around a long time. They do fundraisers, they do car shows, and they do different projects. So they, for a long time, did fundraisers and did a reverberation, is that a word, for the Riverside National Cemetery. And so they did that for a long time. And then once they got that all taken care of, whatever they were working on over there, then they started working on the American Legion Hall, where the club meets. And it was just, the building was just old and worn out, really. And they just went through it, you know, kind of piece by piece by piece. They redid the entire meeting room. They redid the bar floors and everything, put a whole new roof on the place, put a whole new air conditioning system in it, redid the bathrooms. They were not accessible at all. And it was interesting. They took the same space and just opened it up. It kind of did move some walls and did a reconfiguration, and it's great now. All of that, it's awesome. And then they also put some memorials out front. They have some big granite slabs that are for local law enforcement, so police, sheriff, and CHP who have died in the line of duty. So we've had a few ceremonies out there, beautiful tributes to them. So so then I joined under my dad. You have to either be in the military or you have to be a offspring of your military member. So you have to go get the what's it called, the SD something, SD14, something like that. There's a form that you have to get to prove that your parent was in the military. And when I went looking for it, my dad was in World War II, so it predated that form. It's basically kind of like your discharge form. So when I found it, I'm like, oh, this isn't that form. This was something that predated it. So I've got that. So so I've joined, and we're going tomorrow night for Taco Tuesday in our monthly meeting. So doing that.
Bravo, dude. Bravo, man.
The other thing I wanted to share with you is yesterday I was driving, and I was on the street going north. I stop at a stoplight, and I'm the first car in the stoplight, and I look over, and there's a gentleman in a wheelchair, and he starts taking off across the street. And you may have seen this where over the course of my life, I've seen guys that do this, that they sit in the chair and they push with their feet and they go backwards.
Wow.
And that's just the way they, because it's easier to push than pull with your feet, right? So they just go backward. Well, this guy's going against traffic. He's got the red light. The traffic going across in front of me has green lights, and I'm watching in horror, really. And thinking, is this guy going to make it across the street? So imagine that he's going across the street. There are cars in the turn lanes, the left-hand turn lane, to come across and go around me to my left, right? Well, he's going in front of those cars. Now, as soon as he emerges past those cars, then those cars have a green light. And I'm like, what am I going to witness here? I mean, part of me wanted to turn away. I don't want to see it. And just somehow, by the grace of God, he made it across there without getting hit.
No.
Yeah. And, I was thinking about it afterwards. What do I do? I mean, at that point, I mean, there's no way I could have gotten out and gone and helped him. And I was like kind of frozen. Do I pull out into the middle of the intersection to try to stop cars so they don't hurt him? I just didn't know. And then afterwards, later, I started to think, should I have gone and talked to him? I mean, here, obviously, what could I say to him that's going to change the situation? Either he's fearless or doesn't understand. And I can't imagine me having the words that are going to make him understand. What am I going to tell him? Don't go across the street when you have a red light. You could get hurt. I don't know. Yeah,
I would tell him the exact same thing, Doug, but at the same time, I'd be like, dude, that was amazing. How the heck did you do that?
Yeah. And then I also was thinking that, maybe I'll keep an eye out for him, because it's fairly close to my home. So, I may see him again and just go talk with him and see what's up and see if there's anything he needs. I can't make any assumptions. I don't know if he's homeless or just lives in the neighborhood. It was like a wheelchair from a hospital, that kind of wheelchair, not an everyday wheelchair like you see somebody who's permanently disabled has. And I don't know if he's permanently or I don't know anything. But I'm going to kind of keep an eye out for him and see if because there are services available, and I know I can kind of put them together if that helps him in some way. If he's homeless, we can try to work on that. So, but scared the hell out of me, to tell you the truth. All righty, so we have Yi Eubanks on today. She is a special education teacher. So we're going to kind of explore all of that today. And she was also a member of our military, so definitely give her some appreciation for that. And we're going to stop real quick and get a word from the Aguiar Professional Training, and then we'll be right back with Yi.
Introducing Aguiar Professional Training, where we believe your greatest asset is your team. Investing in their development, knowledge, and happiness is crucial for the success and growth of your business. To reach new heights, you need to hire smart, talented individuals and empower them to work in their areas of strength and passion. At Aguiar Professional Training, we're dedicated to helping your employees become happier, more productive, and fulfilled, because when your team thrives, your business thrives. We can help your workplace work better. We offer customized workshops and one-on-one coaching to help teams and leaders build trust and have better communication. We also offer strategic planning sessions, among other services. Elevate your team with Aguiar Professional Training.
Walk and Roll Live. Disability stories. Heard in 30 countries around the world and in your earbuds.
My name is Yi Eubanks, and I'm from Chino Hills, California, and I'm currently a teacher for kids with special education at Ayala High School in Chino Hills.
Very nice. Well, welcome to Walk and Roll Live.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, nice to have you on. We've tried to, do a whole host of different people with disabilities and different aspects of disabilities. So nice to have you on with your perspective. So we'd like to start too and kind of get a little background on our guests. So where are you from?
Originally?
Originally, yeah.
Okay, so I was born in Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
So Taiwan, in case people don't know, it's off of the coast of mainland China. And of course, everybody should know because of the current political affair with China. So yes, it's a tiny little island.
Yeah.
And very similar to Israel, where there's used to be requirement for men to sign up for service And I believe they abandoned the practice, and I think they kind of regret it now. So I think they're going back to, mandatory service for men.
I was going to say, like for the time being, it's independent of China, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but like you say, the current climate, there's a lot of speculation that may change. So we'll see how that goes. And so when did you migrate here?
We came over here when I was around 12. So it's 1983 or so. We first came to Kansas, and that's where my father was studying at Kansas State University. And then we moved to Georgia, and then we settled in California.
What did you think about all of that at 12 years old? Were you excited to come to America, or were you?
Yeah, actually, my father had great admiration for America. This is where a lot of actually Taiwanese political ideology come from. A lot of Taiwanese people came over here for education, fell in love with freedom, fell in love with the idea of a constitutional republic. And so they came and brought these same ideals back to Taiwan. And so that's when we start, wanting independence from China and wanting to establish our own government, our own thoughts and ideas. So, we got our own government and have our own language, our own culture, our own food, language, everything.
Yeah.
And so,
separate from China.
Yes.
Right back at home. Yeah.
Separate from China.
Yeah.
So they might try to, there are some people that try to interfere with the political party. However, it's not direct authoritarian kind where they say, no, you have to do this. No, we fight for our freedom. And so there's two parties, one for freedom and one for ties with China.
So the government just doesn't impose it. There's conversations about it. You can vote for the party that aligns with your ideals, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting.
But we have our own economy. We don't depend on Chinese economy at all.
So do you get an opportunity to go back from time to time?
From time to time. I think last time I went back was about 7 or 8 years ago. It is very interesting, because when I first left, it is very, very different than when I went back.
Mm-hmm.
First time before I left, I remember the streets being very dirty and people are mainly poor. However, once I went back, economy has boomed, flourished, and everybody's much well off. Streets were clean. So, government is trying to step it up. And I believe the last few years, the political party that's in control are the ones who still wants independence from China, does not want any Chinese influence at all. Yeah. So they're the party that is still in control at this time.
Do you feel like a lot of those improvements that you noticed came from those freedoms that people?
I think that it's more from taking on a personal responsibility, knowing that if you want to be a part of the first world, you have to have a good environment that people want to come and visit.
Gotcha.
Because it is a very tourist country also. And so, in order to attract tourists, you're going to have to clean up your act.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what they're doing.
It's got to be safe. Got to have attractions. Yeah, I get you.
Yes.
So I know, we work together. We're on the board of Anthesis, which we've talked a few times about here on Walk and Roll Live. And I know through that you had some military service once you got to America, right?
Yes.
What was that decision?
That's another interesting story.
Yeah, I'm curious about how you made that decision.
So when I was getting ready to graduate, my sister was looking into joining the military because she wanted to go to college and have the college paid for. Okay. And she didn't qualify because her eyesight is just so bad. And when I heard her wanting to join, I'm like, that's not a bad idea. I can go to college and have the government pay for it. Not a bad idea. So I looked into it. And at the time, we actually only have temporary green card. And so actually, I did not know that at that time, but we didn't qualify. But I don't know how the recruiter did it. He got me in. And 3 years after I was in, I was in Panama, and my mom called me up and told me that we are qualified for permanent green card. So I went to the office that's responsible for all that paperwork for military soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them, hey, I want to apply for my permanent green card. And they told me, why would you want to apply for a permanent green card when you can apply for your citizenship right away? I'm like, sign me up.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do it.
And then that's when they told me, you actually are not supposed to be in. And I don't know how they did it, but they got you in. But once you're in, we protect you.
Yeah. It's the classic ask for forgiveness rather than permission, right?
That's right.
Well, definitely thank you for your service.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
And the reason that we're having you on today, like in your introduction, you're a special eds teacher. Is that proper way to kind of say it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really care because my brother is also special needs. Mm-hmm. Call it for what it is. I teach students with special needs, and you can call me a special ed teacher. You can call me teacher for students with special need, however you want to term it. Doesn't really matter. It is what it is.
Yeah. Now, his name is Anthony, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And did that have something to do with your decision to become a special ed teacher?
Well, of course, because after I got my bachelor's degree, I didn't know where I was going to go, what field I want to go into, because my BA is actually in psychology. And psychology is just dime in a dozen. And in order for you to get into psychology field, you start off at minimum wage. Yeah. I didn't want a minimum wage when I have my BA. Mm-hmm. And somebody told me, how about if you become a teacher? So I said, okay, let me give that a try. So I applied. And the first place I ended was actually Ontario Montclair School District. Do you know anything about Lincoln Elementary? Mm-hmm. Lincoln Elementary? Okay, so that was my first job. When I went over there, the classroom was pretty wild because the teacher has been out for over a month. And of course, the kids were running rampant. Didn't have anybody steady in there. Yeah. I wasn't scared, obviously, because my brother, I dealt with my brother my whole life. Yeah. And after the first day, they say, please come back. Please come back. We need somebody in here steady. I was like, sure, I'll come back. It wasn't a problem for me. Yeah. And they just asked me to become a permanent teacher.
Very nice. My ex and my daughter, my ex was a teacher's aide at Lincoln years and years ago. And my daughter went to first grade at Lincoln.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. And she would tell me stories. My ex would tell me stories of, that she heard where people would come to Lincoln and leave at lunchtime and not come back.
That's what I heard too. I guess one of them was one of my sub beforehand, because a couple of them left during lunchtime and just never came back.
Yeah. It's just because it's, there are some challenges there, and there are people that, just can't handle that. So good for you. So you saw a kind of a wide range of disabilities there. I know that there were, she would talk about a lot of swimming pool survivors, so there was physical disabilities, and I'm sure some developmental disabilities as well.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. My classroom, they try to keep it only about 6 to 8 students, because the behaviors, every single one's behavior is just so challenging.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was teaching kids from first grade to third grade. And it's a huge jump now because I'm teaching transition kids from 18 to 22 years old.
Wow.
So it was a big, huge difference. But definitely it is very challenging on me physically, because before I left, my back was hurting constantly, 24/7. And then after I left,
lifting kids and
from lifting, from chasing, from, my back was hurting constantly. Mm-hmm. And then about a month or two after I left Lincoln, stopped hurting.
Gotcha. Now, is that you left Lincoln and went to the older age?
Yes, that's when I went to Ayala.
Gotcha. And you've been there ever since?
Ever since, because y'all are just around the corner from where I live. So,
yeah. Oh, nice. So talk to us about some of the challenges when they have a small class size. Do you still have a fairly small class size at Ayala?
No, actually, now I have like 11, which is not bad.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard some teachers having 15 to 16 in Chino Unified School District, which I don't agree with. Only because you're spending all day just trying to, control the behavior.
Yeah.
Instead of being able to see any progress, you're going to have problem seeing any progress.
Now a teacher in a typical, let's say, classroom, they're mostly addressing their education. Now, is it part of your job to also address some of these behavioral barriers?
Definitely have to, because if you don't address their behavior, you can't get to the academic part.
Yeah.
So the behavior must be controlled first before you will see any progress in them being able to have any educational progress. Yeah. Such as I have one student that has a hard time sitting down, constantly up all day long. How do you teach them their name if they can't even sit down? How can you teach them to speak if they can't even stop to listen? So all those has to be addressed first before any academic progress can be made.
Yeah, and then there's benefits for when they, make an effort to be independent in life.
Absolutely.
Some of those barriers are going to keep them maybe from being employed or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Such as that, the one I just spoke about, he has so much behavior with not being able to sit quietly. But now he's able to sit quietly pretty much all day. He's able to speak many, many words, able to repeat constantly everything that we tell him to repeat. He wasn't able to do that 3 or 4 years ago. So, unless we address all that behavior first, get that under control, you just can't see too much progress.
And so you've got, what did you say, around 11?
11 right now.
In your class. So there must be a kind of a wide range of curriculum as well, because they all have special needs, and are different levels, that kind of thing. So that's got to be quite a challenge for you.
Oh, most definitely, because there are so many. Some of them can read, can write, can, speak in full sentences. And then some of them can't even speak.
Yeah.
So, yes, I do have very wide range of abilities. And so, when I do my curriculum, some of them need a lot more help. Some of them need a lot less help. So then I would have to come up with projects myself where they can do some learning, but learning at their own level. Yeah. So, I think that's every teacher's challenge.
And do you get an opportunity to kind of bring them together with some activities?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So some teachers choose different curriculum they like News to You. That's a website where they give you news every single day, and they scaffold the learning so that it can be as hard as having a whole paragraph that you have to correct the whole paragraph, or as easy as just coloring the page. And so I really like the idea, but News to You costs money, and I didn't want to pay for the money. So now what I did was every single year, I might have 1 year where we study different countries every single week. And then like this upcoming year, we're going to be studying different state from the United States every single week. And what I do is if the kid is really high functioning, their project is for that week, finding the different state that we're studying and tell me about its history. Tell me about its culture. Tell me what one subject they may be interested in. And they have to write out a whole paragraph about it, or 1 sentence, 2 sentence, whatever, as long as it's correct. And then another student that has much lower ability, maybe they like music, maybe they like movies. How about a movie from that state? And if a student really like sports, a sports team from that state. Tell me about that sports team. A student can't talk, can't really do anything, don't have too much interest. Okay, color a page. So then I had to make up a coloring page from that state, and then they just color it in and show it to us.
Yeah.
But they are all required to get up in front of the class and talk about that state, what they did on that report. We call it our report.
Yeah.
And so they have to have a chance to speak. They have to have a chance to, if they can't speak, they repeat words. If they can't speak, they can sign. So we make them present it somehow. And the ones who can't, they use a microphone. They love using that microphone. Do you relate to that, Doug?
Yeah, a little bit.
So they love using that microphone, and some of them, and that's how I got some of them to start talking, actually.
Yeah. So that's a good point there. So you will have children that come into your class that may not be verbal.
Yes.
So are there strategies to try to overcome that?
Oh, yes, because when I was this is a story I also tell too. Yeah. When I was in Lincoln, there was a kid that has never been in school, and he's 7 years old. Pretty big kid, because he's like 5'3", 5'2", like around that time, even though his mom swears he's only 7 years old. Mm-hmm. He came in completely nonverbal, probably autistic. We didn't know, never being exposed to school culture. But I guess mom was told that she has to take him to school or something. So she started bringing him to school. I started off with, of course, you have to start off by building rapport. Yeah. They have to learn to trust you. They have to learn to listen to you first before they will follow your instruction. Then once they start following instruction, I show him the picture book so that he can tell me what he wants or needs. Once he knows he can communicate using the picture book, I move on to sign language. So he's able to sign what he wants instead of using picture books. Then from signing, then I pair up the signing with words. Then he starts speaking. He starts speaking what he wants and needs.
Do you teach the signing, or do they come? I guess it's case by case, but so some children may come with some signs, but you also teach some signs?
Yes. Well, some of them over in Lincoln, everybody signs. Very basic, nothing like, really hard or complicated, because, these kids can only handle a little bit of sign, but just very basic ones, like bathroom, sit down, eat, food, drink, basic ones. And he was so smart. He was able to transition from picture book all the way to speaking within a few months. He was that smart. Wow. So his capability is pretty high. Yeah. And we found out how high.
So I'm sure you see a lot of instances like that where they come to school where the expectations are a little higher and they can rise to them.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And those may not be as common as we like. Yeah. But I think eventually they do rise up to the occasion.
Yeah, very nice. Eric, you had a question?
A lot of this reminds me of part of what happened during my childhood, and the mic is a very wonderful tool. It helped me overcome my fear of stage fright, and I have younger brothers with forms of special needs and a nephew who has traces of special needs as well, and I want to thank you for your service.
You're welcome. And thank you for pointing that out too. Microphone and all those tools, give them a chance to shine, and they'll love it. And it'll make them want to do it more.
So,
absolutely.
So part of that process is an IEP, which is an individual
education
plan. Yeah. So, and every child gets that?
Yes.
Right? So do you do an assessment first and then kind of work with them and parents to come up with that plan?
Yes. So in order to, if a student comes in without anything, anything prior, like just in that case of the 7-year-old, then what happens is that they have to have a psychologist. They have to have everybody giving them their plan, assessment, test them according to what they may or may not be able to do. And then we establish goals that we establish for them. Maybe by the end of the year, we want them to be able to do this. We want them to be able to do that. So we want the goals to be they call it SMART, very specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, because it has to be, realistic, and timed, meaning it has to be timetable.
Yeah.
So all those goals should have those components. Just be very specific, have a timeline on when they can achieve that. And sometimes they go beyond what the goal set, but sometimes we don't achieve that.
Yeah. But you've made progress, probably,
as
in
long as we
striving
make
for those
progress,
goals.
we consider that a win.
Yeah, yeah. And do you ever have kids that may make it to the main classes and mainstreamed?
Mainstream. Now that I'm teaching 18 to 22 years old, I actually have kids that have completed those classes. Mm-hmm. They cannot pass a test, but they have completed those classes. But once they come to my classroom, they are considered already completed all those classes. Yeah. So yes, they are people who completed those classes. And some of them you probably know from Anthesis, actually.
Mm-hmm. And then at 22, they kind of age out of services, right? And out of school. Mm-hmm. So maybe talk a little bit about that, the I don't want to say the mechanics of it, but, just how does that work? What happens at 22 then,
So just right around 22 years old, we at their next to the last IEP, we start asking them to bring in their IRC workers, mm-hmm. so that they can explain to them what programs are available to them, how they can, what they're eligible for, and things like that. And I think some of the parents are kind of shocked to find out that they are not going to be able to get the one-on-one aids. They cannot, there's a lot of services that will stop from the district. And so any service that they get will be at the mercy of the IRC. Yeah. And especially some of them have always had one-on-one aids their whole life. Now they're going to lose that.
Yeah.
And they may have to go to a program where they only deal with behaviors. So they may have 1-to-3 ratio, kind of like Lincoln now. Mm-hmm. And so for some of them, it's a big shock.
And when they get to that point, then, like you say, they're just dealing with the behaviors and maybe not working on educational type things or possibility of employment or more independent living. Yeah.
Then they would only be eligible to go to a behavior program, mm-hmm. or a day program, or whatever the parents would feel comfortable with.
Yeah, yeah.
But one thing that people should remember is that this is probably one of the few countries that offer this wide range of programs and services. In Taiwan, when my mom left Taiwan, there are days when she'll tell me that she would go to park and cry because people are making fun of her son, my brother, mm-hmm. Saying that he's the devil's child or something like that. Things, from my understanding, has changed dramatically in Taiwan now, where they're treating them more like humans and, a lot more sympathize with them and knowing how to help them now. And but way back then, there was nothing like that.
Yeah, I've heard stories like that from a number of different countries where, just the culture and their beliefs, they think they're evil or, what, it's a whole myriad of things. But yeah, so we're way ahead on that score, right? For
sure, yes. And the program and services are so wide, so varied, it's amazing.
And a lot of those are nonprofits, right? That provide the programs and services.
Oh, yes. And, they all depend on, of course, government subsidized. And then whatever they cannot get from the government, it's private donation.
Yeah.
We all know that,
Yeah.
It's all based on the grace of individuals.
Yeah. And then grants, fundraisers that organizations do, donations from other NGOs. Yeah. It's, we try to do the best we can. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So are there other stories that, maybe some stories that, some achievements that you've had with kids that were just moving?
Yeah, quite a few. I mean, the one I had just talked about, he is pretty, when I had him, before I had him, he was pretty wild. He had a hard time sitting down. And even when we take him out into the community and stuff like that, he is just all over the place. He just cannot sit still. His arms all over the place. His legs is all over the place. And I cannot get him to do anything. But I knew that there was an aide that would work great with him because her previous student was very similar to him. It took her almost until 12th grade, 22 years old. And by the time he left, he was a lot more quiet. He listened. He followed directions. He was able to speak and all that. So I knew she would be a great fit.
Yeah, yeah.
She was getting ready to retire. She wasn't sure she wants to. And it took a lot of convincing. It took a few years, actually, of convincing my admin that please move her from that position to this one. Mm-hmm. And at first she wasn't willing to because she didn't want to, cause a wave and everything.
Yeah.
But then after a while, she felt like she was not helping out the other student. So she decided to come, okay, fine, I'll try it. And when she came over, it was a great fit because she was able to implement all the strategies and she was able to get him to calm down. And we had to figure out that, some of his behavior came from the fact that he was too hot. He runs way too hot. And then we had to cool him down. Mm-hmm. And so once we are able to cool him down, he was able to calm down. And it is so bizarre, some of the stuff that really set them off. And just internal temperature is one thing.
That's one of the things we talk about all the time, right, Eric, is that with disabilities, everybody's different. Everybody's
different.
Yeah, there's
absolutely.
No one thing.
We're like the X-Men from all over the world. Yeah. Each of us has something special about themselves, Yeah. When I look at people with disabilities, I'm not looking at the disability. I'm only looking at the individual.
Yeah, and that's you got to do that, right? Mm-hmm. Especially if you're trying to figure out, what strategy is going to work to move them forward in education or behavior or whatever it is.
And you know what? What works one day will not work the next day.
Just another level. Wow. Yeah.
That's right.
And then I got to ask you this. How is it with working with the parents? I'm sure there's some that
I have so many stories, so many.
Yeah.
You need the podcast just from stories on parents.
For those stories, I can imagine. Yeah.
But I have to say this year has been the best parent group ever. Yeah. So yes, I do have some crazy stories about parents.
Without mentioning any names, but just give me some kind of general feel for. I'm sure you have at one end, you've got parents that are very involved and they probably are pushing you to try to do more. And then you have the other end where they're kind of like, protective of their child and don't want you to push them too much.
Yes.
So, which is more challenging?
Oh, they all have their own challenges.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the perfect one would be the ones who realize that these kids have their limits.
Yeah.
And we can only push them for so long.
Yeah.
And so far. And then they reach their limit. So those are the best one to work with. But like you said, there are some of them that wants push too hard. But I think that would burn out the kids, where it gets them frustrated. And then you have those that don't want you to do anything. too much and don't push them and stuff like that, when they could they can achieve so much more if we can just push them and try this with them, try that with them. And all in moderation. That's how I feel.
So the best thing is just to have a parent who's like you guys are a team in trying to do what's best for the child.
Yes.
Yeah, work together.
As long as, it's what's best for, and sometimes they really know their kid. And I'm like, I don't want to try this, but I don't think it's going to work. But you know what? Parent wanted, let's do it. And we did it. And lo and behold, it does work. And I'm like, okay, I was wrong. Parent do know best. Yeah. So, I always go by what the parents want, even if I don't think it's going to work, or even if I don't think it's the best, because you know what? They have the most vested interest in their child.
Yeah. And how do you help parents deal with those long-term inevitabilities, where they're not going to be around, to help and take care of their child?
Most of them really don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
We kind of ask about a little bit, and if they don't want to hear about it, then I just, push any further. But most of them don't want to even think about it. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult. Absolutely. I mean, it's hard enough, letting a typical child kind of go out into the world. Yeah.
Yes.
But are there facilities and there, and I hate to use that word, but are there places, are there group homes and things like that where as they become adults, they can live and have their own lives, to so to speak?
Yes, I do have, a student that decided to go and live in a group home, and she's not communicative. So I was kind of surprised that it came about that she was able to convey that to her parents. But apparently it did happen. And, but I heard that she was fighting with her stepmom a lot.
Yeah.
So that could be a big indication.
Oh.
But she ended up went and living in a group home while she was during the last school year of her attending my school. And was it the best thing? Honestly, I don't think so, but I don't have any control over that.
Go back to it's individual. You got to make the decision on each individual, right? Mm-hmm. Are there laws, regulations that kind of, give some kind of guidance for this? I mean, they become chronologically an adult, they become 22. Does that change things?
If the parents did not have conservatorship, then the adult gets to decide where they want to go. Mm-hmm. And I guess she was adamant about moving to a group home.
Yeah.
And so they abide by what she wanted.
So a lot of these kids may have parents with conservatorship, so those decisions are in their hands.
If the ones with conservatorship, yes, the parents get to make the decision for them, even if the student says no.
Gotcha. All righty. Anything that I missed that maybe you can share with us?
I think that a lot of parents need to realize that what is that their future, if they had to teach them to be as independent as possible, as early as possible, then it makes their life so much easier once they get older. Because even though they're cute when they're little and all that behavior seems like it's cute, go ahead and let it go. No, because once they get older, it's not so cute anymore.
Yeah.
And trying to control their temper tantrum at 22 when they're 6'3", 250 pounds is a lot more different than when they are 2 feet tall, 20 pounds.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the same thing I've said about parents of typical children, that will let a lot of things slide at 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. And, it's kind of like a foundation of a home. If you can't deal with it at 5, you're not going to be able to deal with it at 16 when there's, ranging hormones. There's, all those things going on. Yeah. So you kind of have to do the groundwork.
Same thing you would do with any other child, you should do with the special needs.
Yeah.
Regardless of the special needs.
And I thank God that my parents treated us that way. Me and my siblings, I had a brother that was disabled, and a sister that she had hearing loss but was able-bodied, and my smaller brother able-bodied. And, we all had to do chores like everybody else. We all had to got disciplined.
Good for them. Yep.
Yeah.
Good for them.
And that was some guidance that they got in a time when, when that wasn't the norm, really. This was just a nurse at the hospital that pulled my parents aside and kind of got in their ear and said, this is what you really should do. And they took that to heart, and thank goodness.
And you know what? There's a lot of people that can give you advice, and it's up to you if you listen to it.
Yeah.
And that's a common sense advice. And they're willing to listen to common sense advice. Good for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And parenting, that's all it is common sense.
Yeah. At least consider it. Definitely. Again, we're all different. So, it may not work in every situation, but I'm a firm believer that, you've got to test the limits. So you know exactly where they are,
Yes.
Yeah. Once you figure out that, okay, they can't, they're not going to rise to this level, but you now know where the limits are. And,
absolutely.
It's much better than falling short of the limits, and they could have achieved so much more. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. And I think, and Eric, you can speak to this too. As a person with a disability, I don't want to be treated any different,
No way, man.
Right? You want to be challenged. You want to be, you want to be held to the same standards as everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because every day people are always telling me no, or you can't do this, you can't do that. But I'm always saying yes when life says no. And when they say I can't do it, it gives me more reason to do it.
Yeah, it's like, watch me.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have a fiance who has autism. Both me and my in-laws to be are very protective of her, but at the same time, I'm always telling her never give up. Always chase after your dreams.
Yeah, that's it.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's how it should be.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your experience with us. We appreciate it. Again, thank you for your service, and I'm sure we'll be seeing each other at an anthesis meeting or function sometime soon.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
See you next time then. Thank you for having me, and you guys have a great night.
You too. It was great to meet you.
Yes, nice to meet you too. Bye-bye.
Are you ready to walk and roll into a world of inspiration and empowerment? Introducing Walk and Roll Live, the podcast that celebrates independence, resilience, and the human spirit. Join us as we journey with incredible guests who share their stories of triumph over adversity, breaking barriers, and embracing life to the fullest. Get ready to be inspired, uplifted, and motivated to conquer any challenge. Subscribe now and join the movement. Walk and Roll Live. Life limitless.
Welcome to Walk and Roll Live with Doug Vincent and Eric Aguilar. And Miss So Happy for Your Life and Miss So Fire. Welcome to Walk and Roll Live with Doug Vincent and Eric.
How y'all doing, folks? My name is Eric Igler. I'm here with my buddy Doug.
All right, let's kind of wind things down here. I don't know if I mentioned this last week or if I did it during the week. Man, everything starts to run together after a while. But I did want to highlight our resource page. I've got a couple of more resources that I added there. Got some emails and people who say, "Would he be a good fit for your resource page on walkandrolllive.com?" And I'm so hypersensitive to like scams anymore because they send a link, and I'm afraid if I click on the link, it's going to take me somewhere that I don't want to go, the dark web or something. I don't know. So
if you ever come across anything that you feel suspicious, don't click on it. Just delete it.
Right? Exactly. But So you know what I do is I go to, so it'll have the website, disabilitywidgets.com, and then a slash and another word and a slash and another word to take you down into some particular page in the website. So what I do is I go back, just go to my browser and just put the name in, whatever it is, .com, and then I look for the page on the website. So if the website comes up, it's legit, then I go from there and find it. And generally then I feel pretty, confident that it's all good and I can send you and everybody else there. So I'm pretty good with that. But they were adult addiction if you're interested. And I don't think I put the other one up. I'm still kind of checking that one out. Yeah. I can't remember what it is, but I'll tell you about it when it goes up there. So there's that. And then we have letters. You want to dive into this?
We get letters. We get letters. Oh, so many letters, and it's time to share them with you.
All right, this one I won't get into the whole letter again, but it says, "How do you?" No, that's not it. Oh. Stand by, everybody. Got my pipers all over the place here. Here it is. How do you choose the guests you feature on the podcast, and what criteria do you use to ensure a diverse range of stories? It's a wonderful story. A wonderful question. And I partly I want to say, man, you think more of me than I do, maybe. There's some kind of strategy that goes into it. A little bit. Yeah, I try to, I want to talk to more individuals, right? That's what we want to do, Eric. That's my feeling. I'm at least 60, 70, 80%. I want to talk to individuals and hear their stories and that kind of thing. And then the rest is more organizations that provide programs and services and those kinds of things. The Challenged Athletes Foundations, the Triumph Foundation and Rolling Start and Anthesis and all of that. And that goes for any organization across this wonderful country of ours. If you are listening and you belong to a program in your area and you think it would be great on this show, we would love to highlight them, hear that story, and give them their due. We appreciate that very much. And we could use the guests, because after a while you start to kind of run out of ideas and people, and I got a list as long as my arm, but people are busy, people are a little timid about coming on. Some people you can't really get a hold of. Yeah. It's life. So I'm good with that, but just I'll keep chipping away and give them a gentle nudge from time to time. It's kind of what I do. So, but thank you for asking. What else? I think that's it. Next week we have Leonard Ortega. You know Leonard probably.
I'm only good with the faces and never the names.
Yeah, gotcha. So he'll be on next week. He's going to talk to us about I think assistive technology. That's what I was hoping. But he works with Community Access Center in Riverside, California. So we'll have him on next week.
Oh, I love that place.
Yeah. So we'll have him on next week. So there you have it. All right, we'll let you go. Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Doug Vincent, with Eric Aguilar from the Aguilar Professional Training Studio. This has been Walk and Roll Live, Disability Stories, Life Limitless.
We'll see you next time, guys.
Walk and roll life. Life's the best. Walk and roll life. Life limitless.
In a world where stories often go untold, there's a place where voices shine like gold. Walk and roll life, we're paving the way for unity and love each and every day. Through the whispers of our pain we find our strength. In the echoes of our laughter we go to great land, sharing narratives that heal and inspire, building bridges, lifting voices higher. Walk and roll life, where hearts unite, rock and roll light shining every day. In the bond we share, we'll always strive.